Sigma male doesn't explain himself. Not because he's arrogant, but because he's evolved past the need to be understood. He's learned that the louder people try to justify themselves, the less power they hold. So he stays quiet, mysterious and unpredictable, because silence keeps him in control. While everyone else wastes energy trying to be liked, accepted, or defended, the Sigma operates differently. He knows that truth doesn't need explanation. It just needs time. Those who doubt him will eventually see, and those who truly understand him never needed words in the first place. He's not hiding anything. He's protecting everything, his peace, his strategy, his energy, because once you explain yourself, you give people access to your inner world. And the Sigma doesn't hand out keys to his mind that easily. Most people explain to feel validated. The Sigma doesn't seek that kind of approval. He's too busy building, observing, and executing in silence. His actions speak louder than any defense ever could. They stay until the end, because once you understand why Sigma males never explain themselves, you'll realize that silence isn't weakness, it's power. Before we begin, subscribe to UltraWise, like this video, and let's dive deep into the calm psychology of the man who doesn't speak to be understood, but to be remembered. The understand explanation weakens power. A Sigma male knows one truth most people never realize. The more you explain yourself, the more power you give away. Because explanation isn't always clarity. Sometimes it's a form of submission. The moment you start defending your choices, you tell the world you need approval. And that's something the Sigma will never need. He doesn't explain himself because he doesn't seek to be understood. He seeks to be effective. He's not here to convince anyone of his value, his motives, or his path. He knows who he is. And that's enough. People who misunderstand him are free to stay confused. That's their burden, not his. Most people talk too much when they feel insecure. They over-explain to avoid being judged, to protect their image, or to make others comfortable. But the Sigma understands that comfort kills respect. The more you reveal, the easier you are to control. So he says less and observes more. His silence isn't arrogance, it's awareness. He knows that power lives in restraint. The less people know about what drives him, the more unpredictable he becomes. And unpredictability is power. When confronted, the Sigma doesn't rush to justify himself. He doesn't beg to be seen as right. He stays composed, unreadable. That quietness unsettles people because it shifts control. They don't know what he's thinking, what he'll do next, or how to reach him. And that mystery gives him leverage every time. He's learned that true strength doesn't need validation. Explaining yourself to the wrong audience is like speaking truth to deaf ears. It changes nothing and drains everything. The Sigma would rather stay silent and let results expose the truth than waste energy trying to convince people who don't matter. Because explanation feeds ego and silence feeds power. He doesn't hide because he's weak. He stays quiet because he's strong enough to let his actions speak louder than any defense ever could. And that's what separates him from the rest. While others explain to feel powerful, the Sigma stays silent and remains powerful. They know actions speak louder than words. The Sigma male doesn't talk about what he's going to do. He just does it. Because he knows that words are cheap and promises are easy. The world is full of people who speak loudly but move slowly. But the Sigma? He speaks through action, not explanation. He's learned that silence creates anticipation and results create respect. That's why he keeps his plans quiet. He doesn't announce his moves. He doesn't seek reassurance. He doesn't warn anyone about what's coming, because when it arrives, it speaks for itself. While others waste time convincing people to believe in them, the Sigma uses that same time to become undeniable. His discipline replaces his defense. His progress becomes his proof when he says nothing and delivers everything people listen. Not because he asked them to, but because he left them no choice. The Sigma male understands that real authority doesn't come from speaking, it comes from doing. When you talk too much, you drain the mystery. You give others a map of your intentions, and once they know your direction, they can block your path. The Sigma avoids that mistake. He moves quietly, strategically, and without explanation. He knows that those who talk about power rarely have it, and those who hold power rarely need to talk. So, while the crowd shouts, the Sigma builds. While they debate, he executes. While they brag, he evolves. That's why his silence carries more weight than their noise ever could. People often misread him. They think his quietness means disinterest. But it's not. It's precision. He's channeling all his energy into creation, not conversation. Because talk fades, action lasts. And when the results finally appear, there's nothing left to explain. The Sigma doesn't need to prove who he is. His results already did that. That's why his silence is powerful. Because when a man stops speaking and starts moving, the world eventually adjusts to his rhythm. The Sigma knows. Words echo for a moment, but results echo forever. And that's why his silence is never empty. It's filled with motion, focus, and unstoppable progress. They don't seek external validation. The Sigma male has learned one of life's hardest lessons. The moment you start chasing validation, you lose yourself. Most people live for approval. They dress, speak, and act based on how they want to be perceived. But the Sigma? He couldn't care less. His self-worth doesn't come from opinions. It comes from alignment. He doesn't need others to tell him he's enough. He already knows he is. His validation comes from within, not from applause, likes, or recognition. That's why he's so hard to influence. You can't manipulate a man who's not desperate to be understood. The Sigma's confidence runs deep. It's quiet, not loud. It's built through solitude, not crowds. He's faced himself, studied his flaws, and accepted his truth. So when the world throws judgment at him, he doesn't flinch. Because validation means nothing to a man who has already validated himself. He's not arrogant. He's independent. There's a difference. Arrogance screams, "Look at me." Independence whispers, "I see myself." And that's exactly how the Sigma moves, in quiet certainty. He doesn't argue for his worth. He doesn't need to convince anyone that his path makes sense. Because it doesn't have to. It's his. Most people crumble when they're misunderstood. The Sigma thrives in it. He understands that not being accepted is the price of authenticity. He's not afraid to be the lone wolf, because the wolf doesn't ask the sheep for approval before hunting. This mindset gives him freedom most people never experience. He doesn't perform for acceptance. He doesn't edit his personality to fit expectations. His choices are made for growth, not for applause. And that's what makes him dangerous. He moves without needing anyone to clap for him. The noise of approval doesn't distract him, and the silence of others doesn't stop him. When the Sigma walks his path, he walks it alone, not out of pride, but out of clarity. Because once you stop seeking validation, you stop being controlled. And the man who no longer needs to be understood becomes unstoppable. They value peace over proving themselves. The Sigma male doesn't argue to be right, he walks away to stay calm. He's not interested in proving his point, defending his choices, or convincing anyone to see things his way. Because he's learned something most people never do. Peace is worth more than being understood. He knows that when you try to prove yourself, you're already giving away power. You start chasing opinions, seeking validation, trying to win a game that doesn't matter. But the Sigma doesn't play that game. He's too focused on protecting his energy to waste it on ego battles. He doesn't need to explain his silence, his distance, or his decisions. If people misunderstand him, that's fine. If they doubt him, even better, because he thrives when underestimated. The Sigma has nothing to prove, and that's what makes him powerful. You'll never see him defending himself in arguments or trying to win debates that lead nowhere. He knows that people don't listen to understand, they listen to respond. And he refuses to waste his peace on people who've already made up their minds. The Sigma male values inner stability over outer validation. He knows that calm is his weapon, silence is his shield, and distance is his clarity. When conflict arises, he doesn't feed it, he observes it. When drama seeks attention, he gives it none. His peace isn't negotiable, and he guards it like something sacred. This doesn't make him weak or passive, it makes him wise, because not every battle deserves his sword, and not every situation deserves his energy. Sometimes the strongest move isn't fighting back, it's walking away with your peace intact. He's not detached because he doesn't care. He's detached because he's evolved. Because when you truly know your worth, you realize that silence wins more wars than arguments ever will. The Sigma male's power comes from knowing he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. His calm presence says what his words never have to. Because the loudest man in the room might win attention, but the calmest man in the room always wins respect. They know most people here to respond, not to understand. The Sigma male has learned something most people never realize. The majority don't listen to understand, they listen to reply. They're not trying to connect, they're trying to compete. Every conversation becomes a subtle battle of egos, a race to prove who's right instead of a search for truth. And that's why the Sigma rarely explains himself. Because he knows his words would fall on deaf ears. He's watched people pretend to listen only to interrupt the moment they get the chance. He's seen how most people project, defend, and deflect instead of truly hearing what's being said. So, he stopped wasting his energy trying to communicate with closed minds. You can't teach awareness to someone who listens only to argue. The Sigma's silence, then, becomes a filter. It protects his peace and exposes those who never valued his perspective to begin with. He doesn't engage in endless debates because he knows the outcome won't change. Most people don't want the truth. They just want to win. Instead of speaking, the Sigma observes. He listens to tone, watches body language, and studies intent. He's not listening for words. He's listening for meaning. That's how he can read people so easily. That's how he stays 3 steps ahead. He understands that real communication isn't about talking, it's about understanding. And understanding requires humility, not ego. That's why he connects deeply with few and stays silent with most. He knows that only the rare few listen with the intent to feel the message, not fight it. When people demand explanations, he stays quiet. Not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. Because silence often reveals what words can't. Who's really capable of understanding you, and who's just waiting for their turn to speak. The Sigma male doesn't waste breath convincing people who are addicted to misunderstanding him. He knows truth doesn't need volume. It needs presence. And that's exactly what he embodies. Quiet, steady, unwavering presence. Because in a world full of people desperate to be heard, the Sigma stands apart, powerful enough to stay silent, and wise enough to know who's worth breaking that silence for. They keep their intentions hidden. The Sigma male moves in silence because he understands a simple truth. Power only works when it's unpredictable. The moment people know your intentions, they start preparing for them. They calculate, they interfere, they sabotage. That's why the Sigma never reveals his plans. He lets the results speak first. He's not secretive out of paranoia. He's private out of precision. The Sigma knows that mystery is protection. The less people know, the less they can control. He's learned that oversharing is a modern weakness. The world is full of people who pretend to support you while quietly hoping you fail. So he keeps his goals locked behind calm eyes and few words. His silence makes others uncomfortable because it gives them nothing to read, nothing to predict. They can't manipulate what they can't understand. That's what makes him dangerous. While others expose their next move for attention, the Sigma builds quietly in the background, and when he finally acts, no one sees it coming. Keeping intentions hidden isn't about deception, it's about direction. He knows not everyone deserves access to his vision. Some people are too small-minded to understand it. Others are too envious to handle it. The Sigma protects his focus by limiting his exposure. He doesn't announce progress, doesn't chase approval, doesn't update anyone on what he's working on. He understands that privacy isn't isolation, it's strategy. You can't lose what no one knows about. You can't be stopped on a path no one sees you walking. This makes his presence magnetic, mysterious, unreadable, and commanding. People can sense something powerful in him, but can't quite define it. That's intentional, because power that can be fully understood can be easily controlled. The Sigma silence is never empty, it's full of direction. Every quiet moment, every calm response, every unreadable expression serves a purpose. He's not trying to impress anyone, he's building in the shadows until the results make noise for him. Because when a Sigma male finally makes his move, it's too late for anyone to react. They only realize what happened after he's already 3 steps ahead. They've mastered emotional detachment. The Sigma male's calmness comes from one thing: emotional detachment. Not coldness, not apathy, but mastery. He's learned how to feel everything without being controlled by anything. That's what makes him dangerous, because when a man can't be provoked, manipulated, or emotionally triggered, he becomes untouchable. This kind of control isn't natural, it's earned. The Sigma has been through betrayal, disappointment, and loss, enough to realize that reacting emotionally only gives power away. He's felt the chaos of losing control, and he's vowed never to let it happen again. Now he moves differently, slowly, intentionally, with zero panic and full awareness. He doesn't suppress emotions, he studies them. When anger rises, he analyzes it. When sadness hits, he observes it. He doesn't fight his emotions, he manages them. That's why he can walk through fire without flinching. He's mastered his internal world so deeply that external chaos can't shake him anymore. People who can't control their emotions are predictable. They get played, provoked, and exhausted. The Sigma refuses to live that way. His detachment isn't about avoiding connection, it's about maintaining control. He chooses where to place his feelings, who to trust with them, and when to express them. That's real power. Choosing emotion, not being ruled by it. When someone tries to disrespect him, He doesn't react, he recalculates. When life throws chaos his way, he doesn't panic, he adapts. His strength lies in the pause between emotion and response. That's where clarity lives. That's where wisdom grows. And that calm unnerves people. They expect him to get angry, to argue, to defend himself. But he doesn't. He just observes. And in that silence, he wins. The Sigma male's emotional detachment is his armor. It doesn't make him heartless. It makes him bulletproof. Because when you can stand still in the middle of emotional storms, you stop being a player in the chaos and start becoming the one who controls it. That's the difference between the Sigma and everyone else. They feel to react. He feels to understand. And that's why his calm isn't weakness, it's dominance, disguised as peace. They let silence do the talking. The Sigma male understands something the loudest people never will. Silence is the ultimate statement. It's not emptiness, it's control. It's the space where power breathes, where truth echoes, and where weak minds get uncomfortable. That's why he doesn't argue, over-explain, or compete for attention. He lets silence do what noise never could: expose everything. When he's silent, people start to reveal themselves. They fill the space with their own insecurity, their own guilt, their own intentions. The Sigma just listens. He doesn't interrupt, doesn't defend, doesn't justify, because he knows. Silence has a weight that words can't carry. Most people speak to be understood. The Sigma stays quiet to understand. He knows that by saying less, he sees more. By keeping calm, he learns who's real and who's not. Silence becomes his strategy, and it's lethal. He doesn't respond to disrespect. He lets distance answer it. He doesn't chase attention. He lets presence demand it. His silence creates an aura, one that draws curiosity, respect, and fear all at once. Because when you can stay quiet while everyone else needs to be heard, you automatically rise above them. People often mistake his silence for weakness, but it's the opposite. It's psychological warfare. The Sigma knows that the one who controls the silence controls the room. His calmness unnerves people because they can't tell what he's thinking or what he's planning, and that uncertainty gives him leverage every time. When conflict rises, he doesn't react, he observes. When someone tries to provoke him, he doesn't fight back. He lets silence destroy their ego, because silence exposes what words hide. The Sigma male's silence isn't avoidance, it's awareness. It's his way of saying, I don't need to explain. You'll see soon enough. That's why his presence speaks louder than his voice ever could. His quietness carries more meaning than any speech, because silence, when mastered, becomes the loudest form of power. The Sigma doesn't use silence to hide. He uses it to dominate. Because when the world expects noise, the man who stays silent becomes unforgettable. The Sigma male doesn't explain himself because he doesn't need to. His silence isn't arrogance, it's precision. It's the calm of a man who has nothing to prove and everything to protect. He's not here to convince, to justify, or to seek approval. He's here to move, quietly, efficiently, intentionally. And those who misunderstand him, they were never meant to understand him in the first place. Because mystery protects what noise destroys. He's mastered the power of restraint, of speaking only when it adds value and walking away when it doesn't. His silence speaks louder than any defense ever could, because when you no longer explain, you stop giving people the power to define you. The Sigma knows that truth doesn't need defending. Time will always reveal it. And when it does, those who doubted him will finally realize that his silence wasn't avoidance. It was strength. So, if you've been misunderstood, underestimated, or questioned, stop explaining. Stop trying to make small minds understand a deep soul. Let your results speak. Let your peace answer. Let your silence build your legacy. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim control over your life. And that's when you step into the same energy that defines every Sigma male. Unbothered, unreadable. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to UltraWise, like this video, and comment, "My silence is my power." Because one day, they'll realize the truth. The most powerful man in the room, the one speaking, it's the one who no longer needs to